I think one of my favorite things to brag about, and I'm sure it's quite obvious in the podcast, and that is our staff. The number one reason why people come to see us, I say this in my elevator speech, it's not because of our 2 facilities. It's not because we do in-home training or online training or because we do corporate training. The main reason why people come to see us is for our 24-year history. Every staff member has possessed, at minimum, a bachelor's degree, and we've had PhDs on staff. I've got a master's degree myself, but at least a bachelor's degree in the field of either exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, and then I always say sport medicine or athletic training and point out that those 2 fields are actually rehab fields because we do a lot of prehab, rehab, and post-rehab work. Well, we've added some depth to that rehab field, and I want to introduce you to them today. We're talking to our new athletic trainer, Kayleigh Burkette, today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Hey, good day, and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson. I'm president of Personal Edge Fitness and the host of the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. My guest today with me is Kayleigh Burkette.
Hello.
She's a new trainer here on staff at Personal Edge Fitness, and we're going to get into talking about her and also talking about our rehab program here at Personal Edge Fitness. But before we begin, I want to let you know how to get in touch with the show. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at area code 251-278-3343. That's area code 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. Personaledgefitness.com, as you well know, is our website, and Personal Edge Fitness is our Facebook page. Some of you may be watching this on Facebook right now. Hit me up on X if you care to, at Team PE. Love to hear from you, especially about, like I say, questions about this show, or some of the best ideas we get come from our podcast listeners. So if you have any questions about the whole reason we did this podcast, about dispelling the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, we'd love to hear from you. So, okay, I talk about the quality of the staff all the time. I talk about the fact that we have the most qualified staff in the Southeast, that every staff member for our 24-year history has possessed, at minimum, a bachelor's degree in the field of exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, or athletic training. And as you well know, those last 2 fields are actually rehab fields, and we're talking about one of those today. Kayleigh, welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. Kayleigh, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, where you grew up, where you went to school. What's your dog's name? I don't even know.
Okay. So I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, from here, born and raised. Went to Faith Academy all 12 years plus kindergarten. And my brothers went there, so I spent my entire childhood there.
I'm sure.
And then I did cheerleading, softball. I ran track for like a second, decided it wasn't for me, but did it for a minute.
Beating up on one of my favorite sports. Everybody knows I was a pole vaulter in college. That's okay. Go ahead. It's all right.
And then so I was always around sports. My dad was a football coach, baseball coach. He coached my brothers.
Right.
And so I just grew up around sports, was very comfortable around it. I just love the atmosphere. So then I went to the University of Alabama, and I started out in kinesiology, and I just decided I wanted something more hands-on, something more involved, and more of the team aspect, because that's really what I love. And so I switched my major to athletic training, and so that's what I did for all 4 years, or the rest of the 4 years of college. I worked with Alabama gymnastics, rec and intramural sports, so that was kind of fun because we had like club rugby, ultimate frisbee, just like random things. Ballroom dancing was one of them, so that was kind of funny to see. And I did cheerleading and dance. Actually went to college nationals with the cheer team, and they won a national title there.
Awesome.
So that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I said gymnastics, and then finally I worked with Alabama football. So that was obviously super cool. And Nick Saban just retired, which I'm just like so sad about. I'm like actually devastated.
There are a lot of people that are very happy about him retiring, I'm sure. But give the devil his due. The guy was incredible, and have to say, even being the fan that I am, and I'm thinking the world of our coach, the guy's the GOAT. And so having the chance to have been worked on the field with him had to be exciting.
It was crazy. Just being like around him every day and seeing him coach.
Right.
And the way like his eyes would move and see the play and then the things he would say.
Right.
Just to, I don't know, it was just the coolest experience experience to me, because for me, like, he was a legend to me growing up. He is Alabama football to me.
Right, I understand.
So yeah, that was, he said hello to me like once, and
That's awesome.
I was geeked. I was crazy. I was like,
well,
oh.
and having seen your dad coach, you knew something about coaching.
Yeah.
And so you're watching him watch a play, and then how he breaks it down for the. I bet that was fascinating.
It was so cool.
Had to be so.
So I got to do that. I also worked a semester at a local high school. So the high school kids are really fun to work with.
I'm sure.
Just big personalities. They're learning how to play sports. You know, it's just the community in high school versus college is so much different, but it's so special.
Right.
So.
Right. Awesome. Well, and then after that, before you came here, you actually were in the real athletic training field. This is something that's interesting, and actually I may get you to speak this a bit, but this is, we started hiring athletic trainers. Lord, we hired a first athletic trainer, I think, in 2001, and this was unheard of in the field of athletic training to work in a personal training setting. And the reason we did was because of the background in rehab, how many pre-existing conditions that we see. You've only been here a short while, and you've seen probably quite a few.
Oh, yeah. I know yesterday we worked with somebody who has frozen shoulder.
Right.
So that was one of the things. And by the time she left, she had such a better range of motion than when she came in. So.
And most of those that my background's in kinesiology, and I've been a trainer for 32 years, but I've seen a lot of it and had to learn to deal with it, but nothing to the level of rehab that you guys have. And that's why we started hiring athletic trainers. And like I say, it was so unheard of that that the ad that I had, and I don't know if I've told you about this, but the ad I had, I think I have told you that story. I don't think there's an athletic trainer that I haven't told that story.
Nope.
But the ad that I had going on NATA, National Athletic Trainer Association website, got refused, got denied, got thrown out. Because they said it was derogatory, and it's the ad that Kayleigh answered, and actually it spoke to you.
Yep.
So
well, it was honest, is what it was. So I started wanting to make kind of a career change and just change my path a little bit and come back home. So I looked on Indeed and was just like browsing, and I saw the ad, and it was like, "Are you tired of all the long hours and all the," like, it just listed so many things that I was like, yes, yep, absolutely. And so I reached out because the ad had been taken down by the time I reached out, and I was like, oh, dang it. But I reached out, and Erica responded pretty immediately, and then had the Zoom call with you, and then the next week I came in for an interview. Yeah.
That was good. I'm proud of that. Ad. It was actually put together by one of the foremost employer recruiters in the nation, believe it or not. That ad was written. I looked at it the other day. That ad was written almost 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And has it? I mean, we've updated some things in it, but we haven't updated very much, because in the athletic training world, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but it's long hours.
Very.
It's a lot of redundancy. You know, it's great being around the different athletes and a lot of fun, but it's a lot of redundancy. And as I had originally, I took this one out. I took this one out because NATA got really mad about it. But and I probably should put it back on in since I have it on Indeed. But I actually had the line on there that, do you sometimes feel like a glorified water boy? And and you're speaking from the horse's mouth here. And excuse me, not comparing to a horse.
That's okay.
But in your setting here, you get a chance to work with a lot more. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But tell us where you came from, though. Not only were you at Alabama and worked at the high school, but you worked in the college setting outside of Alabama.
I did. I worked for Tulane. I was a graduate assistant there. I worked there for about 6 months with the beach volleyball and cheer teams, and I would help sometimes with football. But I had a great experience there. As far as learning and hands-on experience, and my teams were awesome. Beach volleyball, cheer, they have my heart. I'm actually going back in about a month to go see them play, because I promised, and it was awesome. Got to work with some really good people.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you're going to do that. That's fantastic. I would love to go see that. I think that'd be awesome. So, well, all right. Now there's something you're hearing. There's something you hear right there that you hear a lot of on the podcast. And if you're a client here, you know exists, and that is that team mentality, about how much you end up caring about the people that you work with. Absolutely. And that translates to us here. It's very difficult. I talk about this, and I don't know if I've told you the story, but how many people are allowed, think about how many people are allowed to actually get in your interpersonal space and lay hands on you. It's very few and far between. You know, unless you're kind of a very different individual, it's very few and far between. I mean, you're a significant other, you're a physician, and if you ever wonder why you, I have to say especially ladies, but guys do this too, why you tell your hairdresser everything, it's because they're actually laying hands on you. So the relationship, you have a relationship that develops and become very close. We see that, of course, in the personal training world. Yep. So you answered the ad and you came here. Okay, I haven't asked her this yet, and I do have editing capabilities here, but so what have you found out?
So me and Gary were talking about this yesterday, is you get to work with such a different population than you would in the athletic training setting. So there you're working with just athletes, and a lot of times in the college setting, you're just, sending them to the doctor to get an image, and then, the doctor kind of tells you what to do.
Right.
So you can't, it really kills a lot of that creativity.
Right.
But here, like yesterday, we have a guy come in who's in a wheelchair, got injured. Now he can't use his legs anymore. But we're able to create a plan for him that works all the way around that. And we can get creative with him, and he's super driven. He wants to climb the rope.
Right.
And even if his wheelchair is attached to him. And that's just somebody I would have never gotten to work with had I stayed in that field. And also just his overall, everybody's attitude here is so good. Everybody wants to be pushed. Everybody wants to come in every day. So it's not a fight to get them in, where sometimes with athletes, it's kind of a fight to get them to come in.
I'm sure.
But here everybody's gung-ho. They don't want to be hurt. They want to keep going. So.
And that's what you're hearing a couple of different things here that you may not know about in the athletic training field. First thing, as opposed to personal trainers, and I've told this. In fact, I told this on a recent podcast. I've told this all the time about the fact this is an unlicensed field, and I'm not a fan of the government being involved in anything I do. But any Tom, Dick, Harry, or Jane can call themselves a personal trainer. Athletic training is not that way. In athletic training and working in a traditional athletic training setting, there's a license. You have a BOC license, and then you're very restricted in what you can do. I mean, and you correct me on this, but y'all do assessments, but not really diagnosis, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you can do assessments, and then you really can't work without, and it depends on what state you're in, but without, you have to be under a physical therapist or a physician. Is that correct? I'm not sure how it was in Louisiana, but I know in Alabama it's that way.
Yep.
In Florida, it's not. But a physical therapist in Florida can work without a prescription from a doctor. In Alabama, they can't. An athletic trainer can't do anything unless they have they can do assessments like you see running up and down on a football field or gymnastics setting, whatever. You get an injury, you're assessing the injury. But so it kills the creativity, like you're talking about. But what we realized some time ago was that you were trained. I mean, like the stuff you were doing at Tulane, fantastic experience, obviously. But was that matching all the things that you were trained to do?
Absolutely not. No.
The athletic where the athletic trainer on a football field may get a chance to tape a few thousand ankles, or assess a knee injury. And y'all are some sick individuals, by the way. I'm gonna get into that in a second. We've had trainers here that get a chance to teach people to walk again.
Yeah.
And we've had 3 people that we've taught to walk again, and hopefully we're gonna have our 4th.
Yep.
And this is I saw Gary. She mentioned Gary earlier, and Gary. I don't think Gary's ever been on the show, to tell you the truth. But Gary's been with us 17 years. He's head of our sport medicine department. He is our chief athletic trainer, and he's actually works as an athletic trainer too. But he's gotten a chance to. He got crazy one time when he got so excited because he had to work with somebody in their dexterity of their hand movement, and he actually built something for them to work on. It was pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
Like a whole work hardening station, which I thought was fantastic. But tell me this: have you ever gotten around, like when you work in the high school, you were at Alabama, and you were doing, I guess you were doing your hours. Don't you have to have certain many hours before to test for the BOC? Yeah. Is that what you were doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that actually considered a class? I mean, the fact that, was it a credit?
It kind of was. We had like our clinical class, but really we just had to get a certain amount of hours, and that ended up being lots of hours every week. But yeah, you have to have a certain amount before you can sit for your board exam. Okay. And so we were doing that. So we would have a different one every semester. Right. That we would go to.
Were you working with the university, or were you working for like Champion Sport Medicine, or who were you working for to work with the high school?
It was the university that would send us out. Yeah.
Okay, they'd send y'all out. All right then. Did you ever get together? Maybe you didn't. with other athletic trainers in your class and get excited about and share stories about what you got to see that day?
All the time.
I'm telling you,
All
y'all
the
are
time.
some sick individuals.
We actually still do to this day. We have a group chat of all the people I graduated with, and we'll be like, "You'll never guess what I got to see today." And it's like, yeah, I got to see a open tib fib, whatever. Yeah, like.
They love injuries. I'm telling you. No, we don't try to cause them here. I promise you.
No.
But the reason I learned this was when I was getting my master's degree. I was in one of my mentorships that I did in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at St. John's Hospital. I was working in the fitness center there in the cardiac rehab program, and in general in the fitness center. Loved that place. Shout out to St. John's and Siegfried Health Center. Going to be coming to visit y'all in March, as a matter of fact. But I would go out. I had a good friend of mine that was going through an athletic training mentorship through St. John's, and I would go out with he and all his friends on Friday night after the games.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, they would. I mean, you see, he was jumping up and down telling a story. He's a big guy, and he was jumping up and down telling a story. He got to help a doctor relocate an elbow on the sideline. How often does that happen? And he was so glad the physician was there because now the responsibility is on him.
Oh
but he
gosh.
actually braced the top part of the tricep, and the doctor yanked it back in place.
Oh my gosh.
So, wouldn't you love to see
pumped.
that? Yeah, it's pumped. Yeah. And this is what they would talk about. It's sick individuals, I tell you. Anyway, not here what we're here to talk about. So, but what parallels have you seen so far? And I'm interested in this because I didn't come out of the athletic training setting. And I've never worked. I worked as an assistant athletic trainer in high school. And that was about close I ever got to it. I taped 3 ankles, I think, in my life. What parallels do you see between the work that you've done, either at the high school setting or the college setting, and what you've seen so far here at Personal Edge?
So a lot of the people that come in here do have pre-existing conditions. So like people come in with double knee replacements or frozen shoulder, ankle issues, just things that they've had in the past. And so we have to kind of tailor their workouts around those things, which is actually really fun to do because you're like, okay, well, they can't do a box squat, but what can they do?
Right.
And so it's kind of like that return to play in athletic training to where you start somewhere and you build and you build and you keep changing the routine until they get back to doing what they were doing before they got hurt.
Right.
So that's the biggest parallel that I think I've seen. And then also people that work here will text Gary and now me. This happened yesterday. Just be like, hey, can you come do an eval for me? And so we'll go down and we'll do the eval and maybe we can refer them to a doctor if they need to, or just, come up with ways that they can work around it.
Right.
So it's a really fun part of this job.
Awesome. Well, and that's, I would think, I'm not trying to toot our horn. You can tell me if it's wrong, seriously, but I would think that is really expanding your creativity. You're almost looked at like you had looked to the physical therapist or to the physician in your position, that you get to have that creativity. And we're not really doing any diagnosis. We are doing evals. And we're not doing, by the way, since Kayleigh's working here as an exercise specialist, and she's not working as an athletic trainer. That is not what we're not doing.
Correct.
The work that you do as an athletic trainer, but it's a trainer with a rehab brain. And so, but it does allow you a lot more creativity. And so you mentioned that earlier, and I'm going to drive that home because I'm excited about that. But we love it here because it adds so much of a depth. And look at how you've been involved in a few evals already, but look at how you make that client feel. Once they may have worked with Charlie and they trust Charlie, and Charlie's one of our exercise. He's our exercise coordinator. He's one of our client coordinators. All his clients like him a lot. They trust him fully. But then they see, or Katie or somebody else, then they see you and you actually do the evaluation. Do you see the change as far as their confidence?
That happened last night with somebody that I didn't really know that well.
Right.
But I came down just to look at their shoulder because they think maybe they slept on it wrong. I was just feeling a little sore.
Right.
And after the eval, they told me several times, oh, thank you so much, and made sure they told me bye, and it was just immediate. Yeah. Well,
and of course the physical side of it, I'm sure that you probably either told them something about their shoulder or told them the injury, but hear the mental side of that. So many times I tell that 60% of this is mental. I've said this several times on the podcast that we don't see people for a physical problem. We see people for a mental problem. Making people feel better about themselves is our mission statement.
Right.
And you saw it. You
Absolutely.
saw how that. That was more than whatever you did physically for them. So So, what else about yourself? What do you like to do outside of here?
I like to do anything that's outside. So love kayaking, hiking. I go fishing a lot with my dad. That's like one of the main things that we do together. Traveling. I actually forgot to mention this. I interned in Australia. I lived there
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I lived there for 3 months working with an Aussie rules football team, which was just the coolest, most fun thing ever.
Talk about sick individuals.
Oh, yes. I think I told you about this. One guy had a gash on his cheek. And it was open, like it was bleeding bad. And he was like, okay, well, like put something over it so I can go back in. Like, it's fine. Where like a lot of people would be like freaking out about their open face.
Right. Yeah.
He was totally fine. But yeah, they were so fun to work with. And just watching Aussie football was so much fun every day.
And how is, I'm curious, as far as an athletic trainer there, compare and contrast that to the college setting that you had in the States. Was there a big difference as far as the way they operate?
It was. So first they're called, they're not called athletic trainers, they're called physios.
Okay.
Or physiotherapists.
Right.
And there they do a lot. It's the same but different at the same time. So they do a lot of like the same taping techniques, and they'll do rehab. But a lot of times with the people that I was working with there, they could refer them to the doctor. But the way their healthcare system is set up is very different than ours. Like they can go get an MRI for free. That's like the day they get there.
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun to work with them. And I mean, the guys were great. And as far as the physio goes, like they could do dry needling.
Right. And
I know you can do that in a couple states now here. It's becoming more of a thing. But it's similar but different.
Yeah. I think it's more like the European model. We had a massage therapist who was actually a physiotherapist, and so he was trained to do so much more than he could legally do. And in here in the States, it's very, very, very different setup. So I'm glad I'm envious of the experience you had there.
So cool.
Because I've trained in four different states, but I've never trained outside of the country. And I think that would be an awesome experience. And I love Australia. I'm going back there at the end of this year. And so I'm jealous of the fact that you got to spend 3 months there.
Yeah.
You know, I spend a couple 3 weeks, but not 3 months there. So that's fantastic. Anybody that I need to run into and say hi, you let me know. I'd be more than glad to.
Got you.
Definitely so. Really, look, we love having you on the staff. We love adding this depth to the to the staff, especially the sport medicine side of it. I hope that it continues to live out what you saw in the ad. You know, and that's what we're looking forward to. And our athletic training staff supports our exercise staff. And in that she is a trainer, and she actually does personal training. We'll be working with. She'll have her own areas that she really likes to work in. We'll make sure that she's working with clients that way. But she supports our exercise science staff, as you heard, the evaluation you did last night, as well as you're learning from our exercise staff.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you've been doing some workouts with one of our staff members too?
Yep.
Yeah,
we worked out last week, and she killed me. So
But that's the great thing about having such a great team. We have the most qualified team in the Southeast. The fact that we sit here and learn from each other,
Absolutely.
You know, iron sharpens iron as far as that goes. So.
I learn a lot from Aubrey just watching her because she's the form queen.
Yeah.
So
her descriptions are tremendous.
They're so good. So I learn a lot from her, like good cues. And Charlie's strength and conditioning. Right. He's super fun to just watch and see how like his brain kind of works whenever he's coaching somebody in our youth development program and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, wait till I know you've been part of that. You've shadowed some of those and part of the youth development already, and having the Haskell background that you have, it fits really well with that. But wait, you weren't here in December, so wait till October comes around. Okay. In December, because we've been talking this whole time about sick individuals, but Charlie, and Josh, on Squattober, and Deadcember. Oh, God. They and Aubrey jumped in, dove headfirst in with them. And they had the music going on Friday afternoon. They were doing Max Day that day, and they were going nuts. I thought we were going to run it. In fact, Hunter, I've talked about Hunter before. Hunter's one of our exercise specialists, and Hunter can bench press a Buick and squat a house. I mean, and incredible. Loves to work out. And I think Hunter was getting upset because they were stealing all the 45s, all the bumper plates. So anyway, wait till you see them. So Kayleigh, it's fantastic having you on staff. Appreciate you being on the show. You will be coming back because we're going to be talking about getting in depth on some injuries and rehabs and what have you. So I'd love for you to join us for that. So listen, if you have any questions about this show or you're interested in getting in touch with us about our sport medicine program or training in general, or you'd like to talk to Kayleigh, hey, give us a call at area code 278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach out to us at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com, and Kayleigh at, I'm not going to butcher your name.
Kayleigh.
At personaledgefitness.com. And that's also our website, our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness. Hit me up on Twitter or X at Team PE. We'd love to hear from you. Talk more about our incredible staff and also our Sport Med program here at Personal Edge Fitness, because it's just one more way we help you reach your level of wellness. Thank you for being on the show today, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.